Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Steve Nicol. We also welcome Gab Marcotti to the show. A little later on in the programme, we're reflecting on that 2-1 victory for Juve over Napoli. But we kick things off with Everton against Liverpool. No goals to show you. It finished 0-0. A pretty even tie overall, and it means, well, for the first time in a long time, the fate of Liverpool's title is out of their hands, because they are now behind Manchester City, having both played the same amount of matches. City are 1 point ahead with 9 games to go. Manchester City now 11-4 on to retain the title. Stevie, is today the day that Liverpool fans will look back at the end of the season as to where they lost it?
I'm not sure I'm ready to go that far, but I will say that this weekend showed that when it comes to this time of year, it's not about how well or how bad you play, it's about getting the result. You know, Liverpool could have and should have won this game. Man City, on the other hand, were awful, dreadful. It's about as bad as they've played all season, but they get a win. So this is about getting 3 points regardless. And Liverpool, you know, you saw the stats here that said the game was close. The truth is, Liverpool had 3 incredible chances.
Sure.
Mo Salah with 2 one-on-ones, with a goalkeeper to come and clear it. So Liverpool should have won this game. The chances they had, they should have. They didn't take them, and that's what it's all about this time of year.
It's interesting you see the Fabinho chance there. That was in the 58th minute. But from then on, really, if there was one team who looked more likely to score, it's Everton, wasn't it? Liverpool got tired.
So, well, they ran out of ideas. You know, the front three haven't been performing well recently, and I would suggest that what you're talking about is a little bit of resurgence for Everton because of the chances Liverpool missed. They're at home. Yeah. It is a derby. At the same time, Liverpool never looked like losing a goal. Let's be honest. I mean, it says they had 3 shots on target, but Alisson could have threw his hat on every single one of them.
Gab, how serious is this for Liverpool now with 9 games to go?
I mean, look, we talk about serious. This is a tremendous season already where they are. It's going to be a huge disappointment if they don't take it home, but I think we need to get that out of the way first. That said, yeah, I think with Klopp, with this team, there's only so many ways that they're going to go and create chances if you exclude set pieces and individual moments of brilliance. They need Roberto Firmino in there, the real Roberto Firmino, not the one who's got the flu or can only play the last 20-25 minutes because he's unfit. I think that makes a huge difference. I think Wijnaldum's run from midfield make a huge difference. I thought he was subpar today. In Klopp's mind, maybe Naby Keita could have provided some of that creativity at the start of the season. That hasn't quite worked out, or certainly not worked out consistently. Once you take all those things out of the mix, how else are Liverpool going to create chances with the fullbacks possibly or set pieces? And that's not a lot to go on. And against an opponent like Everton in these conditions, if you don't take your chances, you're not going to win.
You know, Gab used the word there, consistent. That's the one thing Liverpool were before Christmas. You knew exactly what you were getting from everybody. Since Christmas, they have been so inconsistent. I think they've dropped, 9 points in 11 games? And we've only got 9 games left. That's not what you want to be doing this time of year. As I said, this time of year is about getting 3 points.
What's Shaqiri done wrong?
I would love to know. I can't believe that Origi started. I can't believe that Origi started wide. I can't believe that after taking him off, you put Lallana on before you put Shaqiri on. So I am absolutely bamboozled what he's done wrong. I thought he should have brought Shaqiri on against United. Instead, he brings Sturridge on. So I have no idea what Shaqiri's done, because any time he stepped on the field for Liverpool, he's made a difference. He's either scored goals, he's either offered up chances for teammates, or at the very least, he's actually got the team going. That energy and that enthusiasm that he's shown when he's come on, which just well, we haven't seen it. And anybody else who's come on for Liverpool recently hasn't changed the game whatsoever.
Jurgen Klopp said, though, after the game, look, no more derbies. They're out the way now, looking ahead to the remaining fixtures this season. And you take a look at it, I think it's fair to say that Liverpool have got the easier run in. The big game that stands out, of course, is the one against Chelsea at Anfield. For Manchester City, they've got Spurs and Manchester United to play in what is going to be a frantic April, you feel, for Pep Guardiola's side. It's fair to say, Steve, you could pick your run in, you pick Liverpool's over City, yeah?
Yes.
So
had Liverpool been in the form they were before Christmas, then I would say yes.
Right.
But unfortunately, the way Liverpool are playing now, there's no guarantees. I mean, there is no guarantees about any of those games. That's how I feel right now, because I'm not quite sure what Liverpool, particularly the front three, are going to give me.
What was interesting when we talked about when Liverpool were flying, and when I was asking you, right, what do they need to do now before the end of the season? You said do nothing. Keep everything the same routine. Go to the pub, do whatever you do in the build-up to Manchester. Do it all the same because it's working. Now, though, it's not working.
So you change it.
But what do you do to change it? How do you know what you do is going to have positive results?
Well, what you have to try and do is get, you know, when I said keep things the same,
yeah,
because most players want to follow a pattern, especially when they're doing well. And when it goes wrong, they start looking for other patterns to do.
Right.
Now, whether that makes any difference, I don't know, but psychologically it does. So maybe he has to change training. Maybe he calms training down for a couple of days and then, gets it going towards the end of the week. Or maybe he goes the other way around. That's part of Jurgen Klopp's job, is to psychologically find out how to get his players playing. He knows that he can do it one way and it works, but he has to find another way, because you have to have a plan B.
There are different arguments, aren't there, as to what the Champions League run could do to this title run. Is there an argument to say, look, if you lose against Bayern, then you can really focus properly on the Premier League, which we know is what Liverpool fans really want, considering what you were playing in the last team?
No, not at all. I don't buy that at all. I think playing games in the Premier League and the Champions League and having to be at your best every week is the one thing that should keep you alive.
Right.
And it's certainly better than training. You know, nobody wants to go in and train for 5 days and then play again. I mean, it gets boring. So there's nothing wrong, in my opinion. This time of the year, you want to be playing these games. You want to be in the Champions League. The only problem is, you don't want these games when you're not in form.
Yeah.
And that's the worrying thing. And that's where this is all down to psychology. It's not about ability. It's not about figuring out, what my best 11 is. We all know what Liverpool are at their best. It's figuring out another way to go about it.
But Gab, as Stevie mentioned, Manchester City aren't exactly blowing everyone away each game at the moment. Didn't exactly impress against West Ham. Just that one goal against a Bournemouth side, which I know part the bus. So there's nothing to say, well, look, City are going to win these 9 matches and that's it, it's title over.
No, and then I think we need to bear in mind 2 things. One, City have an absolute ton of injuries, and injuries to key players, whether it's Laporte and Stones at the back. Kevin De Bruyne went off. We'll see what condition he's in. David Silva's been fit, but he certainly hasn't been himself. Jesus has only now come back. So there's a bunch of things going on with City as well. And I think the other thing, and look, Stevie's been there and done it. I can only talk about what people at football clubs say who view things a little differently. A lot of managers, because of the way they prepare their teams, they're a lot more comfortable when they have a whole week to prepare. And that might be, a coaching tactical view. And the reality is City have a ton of games. They're likely to go through in the Champions League. Obviously still have the FA Cup to come. And I think City will also end up prioritizing the Champions League. At least Pep Guardiola will. The fans might be a different story. So I think that is one of the things, that plus the tougher running, I think those are some factors that tell us that this race is by no means over, and Liverpool fans should lose hope just because they're now 1 point behind.
All right, and Stevie, percentage time. Chance of Liverpool winning the league?
You have to give City the edge.
This is painful.
This is a
This
tough.
is painful watching.
This is a tough one.
So basically, it has to add up to 100.
That's all. 60-40 is too much. 55-45, probably. I'll go with that.
Just a reminder, if you ever miss a show, you can download our daily podcast, which is available on the website. There's plenty of bonus material there as well. Executive title. I'll have to do quick maths, Stephen. Quick, 16 points clear at the top of the table. Gab, so much to talk about within this game. What's wrong with late penalties and handballs in Italy over the last, 7 days? That wasn't a pen, was it?
Well, it's funny that you focus on that rather than the Ronaldo thing, because if I can just mention that, and I thought it was a foul, but they showed this endlessly from a million different angles, but it's not clear at all that there was contact on Cristiano. I'm not saying he dived, but it was a typical thing where the striker takes evasive action because otherwise the keeper is going to run into him, and by the laws of the game, it's still a foul. Remember, it's the rules say kick or attempt to kick an opponent. And that's what happened here. But he wasn't actually touched. Now, the reason that's relevant is because that led to a red card. And then you'd have to look at, because it was outside the box, was it a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity? I'm not 100% on that, because you need to see where the ball went and where Allen, who was a covering defender, was. But obviously that set the tone for the match. On the Alexandro, I think the ball hits his chest and then his arm. It becomes a question of whether his arm is where his arm is supposed to be. I think his arm is generally where you would expect it to be. So no, I don't. I can see why it was given, but I disagree. I don't think that was a penalty.
Well, Peter Walton will be with us tomorrow. We'll talk about some of those points there. But Gab, let's just talk about, shall we, the game in general. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, possibly would have even more fun if it was 11v11. I thought Miralem Pjanic's handball. I mean, I get what Stevie says about in the moment, but equally, the guy's an experienced professional at this stage, and he really could have cost his team dearly. In some ways, he nearly did. I thought Napoli, especially in the second half, were exceptional, and I thought Juve hung in there. It's funny, everything now with Juve, Allegri talked about this after the game, is really predicated on that Atletico Madrid second leg. They're obviously 2-0 down from the first leg. And so everything is looked at as sort of a clue of who's going to play, how will they play. I thought defensively they were shakier than you'd want them to be. I thought Bernardeschi really did his part and contributed a lot. And I would expect him to start in the return leg. But it's interesting. They're in this situation where it's almost as if it's anticlimactic now, Serie A for them. But instead, their entire season hinges on what's going to happen in 11 days' time?
I know, it's crazy, isn't it, Gab? It's a bit like Barca last year when they won the Liga early, everything was great, but then obviously, because they lost in the Champions League, all the focus was on that. And that's pretty much exactly what... If they don't come from behind to beat Atleti, then you feel the celebrations are going to be kind of so muted between now and the end of the season.
Absolutely. Remember, they're out of the Coppa Italia as well. And so it's just going to be a long countdown until the summer. When Aaron Ramsey comes in, yay! No, I'm sorry, without making fun, it is a curious situation to be in. And look, nobody's going to have any sympathy for Allegri because Juve haven't played well. But I do see his point when he says, if it were a closer race, it would be a lot easier to kind of keep up the right level of tension for these players, to keep up the right mindset. He keeps talking about how he wants to go and take the game to the opposition and not be passive and not be reactive. And yet Juve are in a situation where against most opponents, wasn't the case against Napoli, they kind of have that luxury that they can play badly, they can sit back, they can wait for episodes, and they win. And that does not prepare you for the Champions League. That's been Allegri's biggest fear so far. And I'll tell you what, maybe even more so than last year, that comeback against, well, the comeback that never was because of the late penalty against Real Madrid. I think with the mindset that they have now, with the pressure that's on them, turning this one around, Atletico Madrid against Atleti, would certainly be one of his bigger feats.
Top four at the moment. City and Liverpool are fine. Spurs fine, Stevie?
Yes, I think they'll be fine. Yeah.
Who'll be joining them in the Champions League next
I'm
season?
going to say it's going to be Manchester United.
Wow.
Yep.
Chelsea, though, with a game in hand, meanwhile. Best of the week. Celebrating Shaka's birthday quite a bit and Stevie's rants. Check it out. Kate Markgraf is with us to reflect on what we saw last night in the She Believes Cup. It was the US taking on England. Nice touch before the means the group standings. Japan and England currently level on points at 4 apiece. US still in search of their first win of this tournament. Brazil, meanwhile, at the bottom. Next up for the US in Tampa, they take on Brazil on Tuesday. The She Believes Cup is very much secondary, isn't it, to what's going to happen in 3 months' time, of course, the World Cup in France. Where are the women's team at the moment in preparation for that?
Well, right now they're stuck in that transition period that should have happened 6 months ago.
Right.
Due to injuries. The best player for the United States all last year was Lindsey Horan. She's an 8. She's that linking player. And what you've seen in these past 2 games is a midfield that can't control either offense or defense. They needed that player that can link. Right now, they're playing some players out of position. Mallory Pugh's asked to play defensive. She isn't defensive. She's playing in the center. She's more of a winger. She plays behind Tobin Heath. So to put her at the 10 is kind of shocking against these teams that are so good in midfield.
Are they the favourites to win the World Cup, to retain the World Cup?
Oh, right now, I would say no if this was their team going forward. Becky Sauerbrunn didn't start as well. She has a knee injury that she picked up. And so that's 2 players now between Sauerbrunn and Horan in the spine with leadership ability that are missing. That requires other players to step up. And individually on defense, you have some players that their footwork is horrible. They're not getting in the right spots. And those are things that can be fixed. So that's the positive. It's positive about these are injuries to their key players that it's short term. They're going to come back. But what's questionable is the tactics that are being used when players go down. This isn't the group that I would play necessarily in the positions that they're playing. There are center mids, for example, Sam Ewis that got subbed in the last 30 minutes. That's a player that should have started the game, in my opinion, because she can help a shaky back line, shield them a little bit, and then help them build out and build some confidence.
So how seriously is Jill Ellis taking this tournament?
Yeah, I think she's taking it seriously, but I wish that she would do what Phil Neville's doing for England. He's rotating rosters. He's rotating teams. And yeah, you can change the formation within games. I like that tactical versatility, but I want to see more players because you got to give them confidence in big moments. That only happens from playing time. Adriana France should not be getting her first cap right now. That should have happened last year.
Meanwhile, away from Serious, our old friend Hercules Gomez joins us. Hercule, of course, in LA ahead of LAFC's game against Sporting KC. He'll be calling that for ESPN Deportes. But let's focus on what happened on the Galaxy side of the city, where it's all about, isn't it? Efrain Alvarez, 16 years of age, such an exciting prospect. An assist yesterday. The buzz around that club for the youngster must be insane.
It was insane. Let me start off by saying Dennis DeClose deserves major credit for Efrain Alvarez. Even impact, a hand in the first goal, another play that leads up to the second goal. Zlatan Ibrahimovic praises this kid. To me, that's not the question whether he'll be a good player for the Galaxy. The question is, will he play with Mexico or will he play with the United States?
It's a question we've addressed before, of course, with other players. What are the suggestions early doors as to which country he's going to choose, Herc?
Well, my sources with the Mexican Federation are telling me that they're putting a full court press on this kid. They expect to have him available for the Gold Cup when that comes around. Now, if he's available for the Gold Cup and he plays, the U.S. men's national team's out the window. But this kid has Southern California ties. He very much embraces both communities, the Mexican community and the American community. I think it's very much still up in the air.
Hercules sources. Meanwhile, Jordan Morris back in some style. We saw, of course, Herc getting 2 goals, I would say, as opposed to Stevie's just the 1 goal that he's credited him in the Sounders' victory yesterday. This is such a nice story for, of course, a kid you know well.
Know him very well. Just burst onto the scene. It's been heightened all of a sudden. The responsibility and leadership that he's taken on. I think we're back to seeing the Jordan Morris of old.
Meanwhile, the picture, of course, that's gone viral is all the snow in Colorado. It's nice, and I know it's a good story, but how on earth does this game get the go-ahead, Herc?
It's a very good question. I've been part of 2 games, and both in Colorado. The very first game out at Dick's Sporting Goods Park was the coldest day registered in history. And then the next time, the Snow Classico, that famous Snow Classico, again at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, around the same time this year, almost 5 years ago. It gets cold in March. I have no idea why they played the game. It was epic for all us fans watching. They brought out the orange ball. It was actually a very entertaining soccer game. But you're right, maybe it's a game that shouldn't have been played.
Slightly warmer, I'm pleased to see in California. Hercules Gomez, thank you very much. You can catch his commentary, of course, on ESPN Deportes tonight. More MLS action for you tomorrow. We'll be breaking it down. Sebi and Taylor will be joining us. Is it?
Yeah, but you know what referees are like.
He kept his shirt on.
What's worse? Taking an Insta story or taking your shirt off?
Take your shirt off. Why would you take your shirt off
Insta
anyway?
story is worse.
No one wants to see that off. That's a red card. Thank you very much to Stevie and to Kay. Stay tuned for Extra Time. Welcome to Extra Time. Just the 2 of us here today, Stephen. Yeah, I'm going to introduce producer saying don't forget Gab. I know Gab's here. I'm in the studio. What's Gab doing then?
3 of us.
Yeah, but you're there. You're not in the studio. You're in your house.
I know, but people listening to the podcast don't know.
Well, they do know.
I think we're all in the same place.
Look, that one person will know. Don't worry.
I've broken the 4th wall.
Okay. Jurgen Klopp, of course, talking about the weather after the game. Did the win factor ruin Liverpool's title hopes?
I never actually saw this.
Yeah.
Was he serious? Or?
Well, why bring it up if you're not serious?
I've no idea. Listen, I understand when he brought up a few weeks ago when the field was heavy with the snow.
Yeah.
Which obviously stops the ball moving as quickly. But I mean, unless it's a force 8 gale blowing, no. And I didn't even notice anyone myself.
No. Gab, am I right in thinking? I'm trying to think back to Vialli's book, which you wrote. Is that right? That he talks about wind being a big factor in training.
Well, we wrote it together. It's not Vialli's book. It's our book. It's not a biography. But yes,
sorry. Look, I thought I'd get praise for reading the book in the first place.
Well, you obviously didn't read it very closely if you just call it that. But no, yeah, it's not. This is. Look, we spoke to a lot of people about this, from Sir Alex Ferguson to Arsene Wenger to Jose Mourinho. And the theory that, I mean, it was put forth by Wenger originally, but backed by Ferguson, probably one of the few things that they agreed on, was that part of the reason why historically players from the British Isles tended to be less technically gifted than their counterparts in warmer climes didn't have to do with the heat or the rain so much. It had to do specifically with the wind. The idea being that you develop your technique by doing a lot of repetitive individual exercises with the ball, and when it's all windy and the ball's going all over the place, it's harder to do. Now, just to be clear, I don't fully endorse this because it's very windy in Portugal too, and they weirdly managed to produce a lot of technically gifted players, but Wenger and Sir Alex and Luca Vialli all seem to be in agreement on this.
What's the name of the book, Gab?
The book's called The Italian Job.
So when it's in the bookshelves, if it was in author order, is it in the V segment or the M segment?
It's in both, actually.
No, it's not.
In fact, it's probably more in the M segment. Because it's more in the M segment, because I'm ahead of him alphabetically, even though he's won more Champions League titles than I have. Just one more, by the way, I might add. But I don't see, though, what this impacted. Look,
discussion.
Listen.
I regret bringing this up. Gab. Oh, he's gone. Right.
Yes.
How underrated is Gerard Piqué? I mean, Van Dijk puts in some good performances and straight up gets compared to Maldini, while no one seems to mention Piqué when talking about the current best centre-backs in the world.
Well, I think Gerard Piqué physically is on the wrong side of his career. He was never Usain Bolt, was he? But he read the game well. His starting position was good. So he had adequate pace that he was fine. But I think he's beginning to get caught now. That pace just, no matter how smart you are, if you're up against just pure speed, it's very difficult to deal with. So Gerard Piqué, I don't think Alex Ferguson let Gerard Piqué go from Manchester United for any other reason. I didn't think that he would be able to handle it in the Premier League.
He was wrong. Yeah?
How was he wrong?
Well, because since then he's won the Champions League, the World Cup, the European Championship, every single thing.
You're not kidding when you say you don't listen to what we say.
Well, you said that he couldn't take the Premier League, as somehow defending the Premier League is different.
Yes.
To that bigger
Absolutely.
scale. So how can you win the Champions
Absolutely.
League? How can
Absolutely.
how can you win the Champions League with Barcelona, who have to play Premier League teams?
So you don't want to accept that then? You don't want to accept. Would you? You know, you're sitting here the other day. We're talking about Jorginho, and I was talking about how he couldn't handle the pace of the Premier League, and that was okay.
Right.
But not all of a sudden, because of the difference that the Premier League has, and it's Gerard Piqué, then you're not accepting that.
What's Jorginho done in his life? If he went back and he won everything in Italy, then it's a different conversation.
I'll say what Jorginho's done. Now, any other year, Napoli with 91 points would have won Serie A. Right, Gab?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's spot on. But so if I just go back to the Piqué, because this is one thing where I have a little bit of insight into Gerard Piqué at Manchester United. He will be the first to tell you that when he was at United, you know, he left Barcelona. He comes from a fairly privileged background. He got there. All of a sudden, he's living on his own, or he's away from home. He kind of, for several years, in the time he was at United, he just kind of coasted. You know, he was very young. He was lazy. He wasn't very professional about the way he went about things. He got warnings from the club and from Sir Alex, who said that if you don't shape up, you might not actually make it as talented as you are. And he's the first to say that, when he went back to Barcelona, he was hugely motivated, and he really went to another level. He was very, very young. The hallmarks of a good player were there, but I think it was more a case of Sir Alex saying, well, look, his attitude's not right. He maybe enjoys going out a little too much and so on. Doesn't have that professionalism, but he developed that. And as far as the Piqué Van Dijk comparisons, I think Van Dijk's 27 years old, 28, something like that. We'd really need to compare 27-year-old Gerard Piqué with 27-year-old Van Dijk. Beyond that, I think Piqué has lost a step. Even though he was outstanding, I thought, in the Clasico. But, you are talking about one of the greatest defenders, I think, of his generation, who I think would have been a success anywhere.
The more intriguing title race for you, Stephen, the Premier League or the Bundesliga?
Premier League.
Because of the Liverpool thing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. The fact that, was it 29 years?
I know, you were there. You were playing.
1990.
Oh, I forgot the Ronaldo question. Should we do with the Ronaldo question now? We'll go to this one, then Ronaldo one. Premier League or Bundesliga? Gav?
I'm going to lean Premier League simply because of the Liverpool factor. Everything Liverpool stands for, and the fact that it's really been so long. Let's say with the Bundesliga, it's a great story if Borussia Dortmund win it. If Bayern come from behind, it's the Grinch who stole Christmas yet again.
Stevie, would you rather have Liverpool's last year in form attack or stick with this year's in-form defence? So basically, would you prefer the Mohamed Salah of last year and no Van Dijk, or Van Dijk and the Mohamed Salah of this year?
Well, I've got to go with this year because we know what happened last year. I like good defending.
You do?
So I like to see good defending. Liverpool, no question, defend well. It's just unfortunate that going forward they haven't been the front three that we had last year, particularly Salah. So yeah, I'd have to go with this year.
Final question, and by the way, every single question today is football related. To the haters who say we never answer football questions on here. What's everyone's favourite football movie? Gab? Bend It Like Beckham? Goal 2? Where are you going?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess it would have to be Escape to Victory, to the point that the stadium where it was filmed, the Stade de Colombes, when I was in Paris for the World Cup in '98, I actually tried to go find it. It's not there anymore. Oh. It's a block of flats, which probably explains why I couldn't find it. But no, I think it has to be. It has to be that. There aren't that many good football films out there, in my opinion.
ID is good.
Idea.
But ID.
ID.
Yeah, but it's about football hooliganism. That's still a football movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, you can't. It's got to be
Dan.
Escape to Victory.
Yeah.
The only other one's been with Bet. What other one is there?
Well, there's the Goal series. Goal 1, Goal 2. I'm in Goal 2 as a commentator.
Goal 2? What's that? I've never even heard of it.
It's about a Newcastle player. I can't remember. I don't remember the storyline. But the first one he plays for Newcastle. The second one he plays for Real Madrid.
Yeah, rubbish.
Dan?
Yeah, yes, Cal.
In the hooligan film genre, I agree with you. ID is very good.
Yeah.
The worst one is, I don't know if you saw this, it's a movie called Green Street, where Elijah Wood I think it's Elijah Wood, or it's some baby-faced twerp, who he moves to London to like visit his cousin who's working here, and then ends up falling in with some really, really hard fake West Ham firm.
Oh.
If you haven't seen it, you should.
What's the one where Vinnie Jones is that Euro Trip? I think
No. Let's not mention that man, please. Come on.
I think I think it's Euro Trip he's in. He's like acts as a hooligan for someone. That's it. We're done. On that note, ESPN FC's back tomorrow. I'll tell you what, Peter Walton's here. Lots to talk about with him tomorrow. Plus, of course, the new handball rule. Law.